It's all or nothing.
Exactly. And they know how important this election cycle is.
They're behind the scenes. They're behind the scenes saying, look, you've got one guy and intelligence guy saying, if we implement these policies, it could be used against us. And he says, if we don't implement these policies, they will be used against us.
That's right.
Their only chance now is to throw everything at the wall and make sure Trump can't win.
Yep.
They're not worried about Trump going after them. Remember, Trump, as soon as he won, was like, oh, that stuff about Hillary. And then Trump recently said, can you believe this? He doesn't have time for retribution or revenge. Asinine statement. But he's not going to do anything. They're not worried about that. They're worried about the people rising up. That's what they're worried about. And the people saying, no, I do want these changes implemented. They're not worried about there's not going to be any rising for people to go after Obama like they're going after Trump. But there could be an uprising to make sure none of us trust this election. You have a lot of young people who aren't for Biden. How is Joe Biden going to sell 81 million votes this time? How is he going to do that? The people on the campuses aren't going to believe it. I'm not going to believe it. Nobody's going to believe it other than the NPCs. So then now that leads us down the path of, what else don't I believe? It's not going to be a persecution thing, but I'm kind of mincing words a little bit.
Yeah, they're terrified. They're terrified. That's why they're doing this. Like, people don't even understand. They are as scared or more afraid than us. People don't do things like this. People don't really go on the offensive unless they're afraid of what's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
So, they're scared too. And there's hope in that.
Well, take a look at Russia.
Absolutely.
Why does Russia invade Ukraine?
Because they're afraid. Yeah.
They were losing. They lost the soft power battle. The West was taking control of Ukraine, so Russia says force was their only option.
Yeah, and I mean, look, all the existential threats that have come to Russia in the last 100 years.
That's why they're going after Tim Pool in a way through this lawsuit with Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, but they went after Alex Jones. That's why. Then Alex Jones is still a celebrity and political realm. Same with Tim Pool, Steven Crowder, but now they're going after they're hunting J6ers down like dogs and going after the Michigan 16 and the Georgia 19, Nevada, Arizona, to let you know, as a normal person, we will come for you. So don't speak out.
Have been from America and Germany, and then you have NATO, which is basically America and Germany. So it's like, wow. Yeah, of course, Russia is pretty afraid of losing Ukraine to NATO. I'm not saying that makes Putin justified, but I'm saying it does mean that he acted out of fear.
It justifies it from his point of view.
State is acting out of fear. We got to keep calm heads here.
Yeah.
But we have to know what the stakes are. We can't be naive. We can't pretend that everything's going to be okay and we don't have to do anything.
Yeah,
right?
You can't become complacent. You have to stay
Exactly.
active. I mean, I think one of the realities of choosing Biden to be the Democratic nominee is that it set them up for a very weak future. I don't really think that he had the popularity to be a two-term president, and obviously there are questions about his health. But it also
I don't agree with that. I mean, he's just too old for the second half, but he's still doing it. They're still going to parade him around. There was something about Joe, and a lot of the shine has wiped off, but there was something about Joe where he could acquiesce or get the coalition of the black imams. They couldn't have won 2020 without the blacks. And remember, Jim, he was losing. Joe Biden's campaign in the primary leading up to 2020 was in shambles. You had Buttigieg and you really had Bernie coming strong again. Until I believe it was South Carolina with Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn went to all the black imam churches and said, you have to rally around this dude. What other person would have done that? That wouldn't have worked with Buttigieg. That didn't work with Bernie. Bernie just so awkward there. For whatever reason, maybe it's because he was Obama's VP. I don't know what it is. They kind of like Joe. So Joe was the right person. I mean, he won in 2020. I mean, allegedly. He was the right person. I didn't think he was going to do 2 terms. I think a lot of them didn't think he was going to do 2 terms, but they just needed to win 2020. So I think she's wrong there. Name me somebody else. Who was going to be the person to do that? I don't think it was anybody else.
encouraged, again, I would say a progressive activist base in the country to use lawfare as warfare and to specifically use any sort of judicial office as a way to go after their enemies. We're seeing this. I mean, New York is probably the biggest offender. You can talk about this with stuff they've done to Project Veritas. You can talk about what they're doing to Trump. There are so many organizations that are suffering at the hands of like Letitia James, Bragg. But it's also, I mean, you're the perfect person to talk about this. It's something that they did to people who went to January 6th, right? They overcharged, they over-investigated, they treated them like criminals before they were even fairly given a trial. Everyone was tried in D.C. where they were unlikely, realistically, to be able to face a jury of their peers. I mean, it is not something that can be unwound. We've had 4 years building towards this, and no matter who the next president is, I mean, if it's Biden, it'll get worse, and if it's Trump, having to dial back sort of activist judicial DAs,
damn near impossible.
It's going to be a really difficult challenge.
Yeah, 4 years.
Absolutely. Are you aware? So my initial charge is a felony
I think that's why he said he didn't have time for retribution or revenge. It's just impossible.
theft for moving furniture. Never actually took it out of the building. It was sitting somewhere. I moved it 20 yards, put it in the center, took a photo, left. That's my story. It's actually very boring. I was given an ankle monitor. I couldn't leave. I had curfew, had to be in the house. Horrible things, right?
$100,000
the prosecutor who did that. Do you know about my prosecutor? This is
Yeah.
fun.
Oh,
This
yeah,
is
yeah.
Is he in jail?
He went little pokey to a driver on video. Oh man, listen to this.
Now?
No, he's out. No ankle monitor,
wow.
no restrictions.
Did
He's
he kill
out.
a guy?
No, on the Howard Franklin down in Tampa where I live, this man
on
got out
video.
of his car. It's on video, but allegedly always, and stabbed another motorist in the chest several times, breaking the
gosh.
window. This was
The
my
guy lived?
prosecutor. Yes, the guy lived.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to the hospital. He's okay now. But this guy didn't get any restrictions. No ankle monitor. They didn't call him a threat to his community. I move furniture, ankle monitor, you can't leave, curfew.
And look at the people. We're all cucked. We're all cucks. What do we do? No state says I'm a sanctuary state. This is nonsense. You are clearly violating the union that we all came together with. You are consorting with the federal government to go after people who you can clearly identify as your political enemies. He's not even a right winger. He's just kind of like me, was a default, I think. Let me not speak for him, but my understanding his story is he was kind of like a default Democrat and just kind of woke up during the pandemic, just like everybody. Damn near everybody in this space was a default Democrat, voted Obama twice. I don't remember his story exactly, but Officer Tatum, default Democrat. I'm default Democrat, voted Obama twice, and then pandemic hits, and it was before for some of them. But for me, a lot of people, pandemic hits, they come out with articles and they say, oh, we told you to stay inside, but if you're outside protesting a low IQ, speedball driven, out of his mind, resisting arrest, black imam who needed to have his knee, somebody put a knee on his back, and the guy who did it, Chauvin, was probably 80 pounds soaking wet, and the guy who was on the ground was like Shannon Sharp built, and you want to sell me that that's the act that did it? And even then, he argued to get out of the car. If you want to argue for that and protest for that, you're okay. It's not like the protests right now for that country, protests against that country over there right now, where they got snipers on the roof. They got the National Guard coming in. They're roughing up professors. No. During the Black Lives Matter stuff, they were like, oh, the riots are the voice of the unheard. If you were doing that, you've got our medical approval. There's articles where that's what woke me. That was my red pill. I was like, wait a second. This is completely gone off the rails. And just because of that, now I'm identified as the political enemy of those people, just like he is. Persecuted, and nobody in the country cares.
Middle MAGA.